Hey guys, it's Joe Marra.
And Stephanie.
And you're about to listen to our show, Universal Talk, brought to you by A Guiding Light,
where we discuss everything spirituality.
This ranges from elevating our consciousness,
the transformation of our world,
the Ascension process,
astrology,
science,
exopolitics,
higher dimensional beings,
and all of this from every perspective and much more.
Make sure to tune in every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
And don't forget to join the conversation by visiting A Guiding Light, spelled LITE.com, under the forums section.
To give us your perspective,
or to ask questions for future shows or guests.
We thank you for listening and send you love,
light,
and laughter. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We have a very exciting show for you tonight, comprised of 4 very special guests. And here's the lineup. Drunvalo Melchizedek. Drunvalo is the author of 5 books, including The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volumes 1 and 2, Living in the Heart, Serpent of Light, and his newest one, The Mayan Ouroboros. These books have been published in 29 languages and reach out to over 100 countries throughout the world. He has been on television and on the internet and written about in magazines, newspapers, and books all over the world. Having left the United States over 280 times, Drunvalo is a world traveler helping people understand their intimate connection to God. Drunvalo is the first person in the world in modern times to mathematically and geometrically define the human light body called, in ancient times, the Merkaba. He is a consultant for the international internet magazine Spirit of Mott, with over 1 million viewers each year. He is the founder of the Flower of Life Facilitators that have been teaching his work in over 60 countries.
And next up we have Tolek. Tolek is a human representative of the Andromeda Council, an interdimensional, intergalactic, interstellar governance and development body of aligned benevolent star systems and planets for worlds in both the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies. The Andromeda Council is comprised of, like Earth, third-dimensional people, but mostly fourth, fifth, and some sixth-dimensional beings. Think of it much like an interdimensional, intergalactic, and interstellar United Nations. Tolek's first physical contact with a member of the Andromeda Council came in the summer of 1993, which was a time travel experience back to the mid-1840s in rural Appalachian mountain area of America. He again experienced renewed conscious contact again in September of 2010, with communication in the form of telepathy, speech, imagery, and physical real-time visits to the primary Andromeda Council biosphere, which continues to this day.
Up next, we have Brad Johnson. Brad is known as a conscious matrix communicator, one with the ability to naturally access one's whole being or soul matrix. Since August of 2008, Brad has pursued the practice of meditation, conscious channeling, and energy healing methods that have helped him to grow into a prolific facilitator of spiritual practices and metaphysical research.
And last but certainly not least, we have KP. KP is the spirit of light, working with energies on this planet, on Turtle Island, and in Hawaii, to assist in humanity's ascension process and help bring about the new Earth. He is here for one reason, to bring light to this planet.
Thank you again for listening, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Universal Talk. I'm Joe Marra.
And I'm Stephanie.
And we'll be your hosts for the next 2 hours or so. We have a very special panel of guests tonight that have come together to co-create something very new and very informative for humanity. We'll be calling upon the energies of the summer solstice and asking for whatever's in the greatest good for all the listeners and for all of humanity as a whole for this very special report. Tune in as we explore the unexplainable. Before we begin, I just need to say that Alfred Weber and James Gilliland were unable to attend this discussion due to some scheduling conflicts, but we hope to get them back on the show for future events. Our panel tonight, in no specific order, includes Drunvalo Melchizedek, Tolek, Brad Johnson, and KP. Welcome to Universal Talk.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Hi, Joe. Glad to be here.
It's awesome to have you guys here.
All right.
It's a be here.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of interesting because we have Kauila all the way out in the ocean, off the mainland.
Well, not right now. Not in the ocean.
Well, it's an island, or a set of islands, sorry.
Okay, so you know what's interesting is we're going to be pulling upon the energies within the particular parts of the planet. Stephanie and I are in Pennsylvania. Tolik's in the Southwest. And Drunvalo, I believe, is in Arizona.
In Sedona.
Sedona specifically.
Yeah, I'm close by.
And KP is in Hawaii, correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. So we're going to pull our energies together to co-create this thing tonight. And as we talked about before, we're going to allow Drunvalo the floor to basically set the stage for this very special discussion tonight. And then I'm going to bring on each of you to comment or give your information that you currently have at this time in relation to what Drunvalo is bringing forth tonight.
What about Brad? Where's he?
On here.
Where?
Oh, I'm in Vancouver, BC, Canada.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brad.
Another country. Great.
Another
That's
country.
right. That's so awesome. Thank you for that, Tolik. You know what? I got so caught up with all this energy, I forgot. Sorry, Brad.
Yeah, all right, man. It's a nice group of energy, so it's not surprising.
Okay, Drunvalo, if you want to set the stage here and just bring forth whatever you feel inspired to bring forth, and then I'll bring each guest on afterwards.
Okay, thanks, Joe. For me, I basically have moved through a revelation in my life, and I'm beginning to understand something that I've been trying to understand for at least 45, 50 years. And to put this into context, spirituality and religions, etc., have had an idea of the universe, of what it is, and just the nature of it. And basically what they've been saying in a simple terms is that the universe, there's just one God, there's one spirit that moves through everything, and it's all connected. It's one living being that moves through everything. But science doesn't see that. It may be heading for that and would hope to find it someday, but it has not been able to do that because of certain things. Up until recently, the speed limit of the universe was c, or the speed of light, 186,200 miles a second. And that may seem fast, but relative to the size of the universe itself, which I'll use a conservative numbers on that, it's about 13.4 billion light years across. And I know there's ones that are higher than that, but I'll just use that one because it's more conservative. And so, in terms of the if the universe was one thing, if there was only one being and one consciousness throughout this, there'd have to be communication between all the stars and the planets and everything that exists. But that to science has been impossible, because the speed of light at 186,200 miles a second takes 13.4 billion years to cross the entire universe. So if one person was speaking to another one, or part of this one being was speaking to another one, it would take 13.4 billion years for that hello to get there, and another 13.4 billion years for it to get back. And that, to science, that's just not communication that would make a universe alive and conscious. But something happened in 1969 where we discovered what were then called field-aligned currents. And those currents, now, today, what they know about them, they're now called the Birkeland currents. And the Birkeland currents are interesting because what they've now discovered is that the Birkeland currents can move across the entire universe, all 13.54 billion light years, in zero time, no time whatsoever. And the distance doesn't make any difference, and the time is zero. And so this changes everything. This gives the possibility, for the first time in a scientific point of view, where you could see that it is possible that the entire universe is one living consciousness and connected together in those kinds of ways. We've never been able to come up with anything that would do this. Interesting enough, from what I've been able to find, is that when they discovered this in 1969, very shortly after that, they didn't make it illegal to talk about it, but they suppressed it very deeply, along with alpha wave and brain neuro technology, because those two things are linked together. And if those two technologies were to come together and be understood, a human being would be far more than anything that we can imagine right now. And so it is this stage that I'm talking about. There's a great deal to it. I could probably myself talk on for 2 hours alone, but I'd like to hear what the rest of the people here on the panel, what you feel about the Birkeland currents and what you think is possible through that.
That's great. Okay, so what I'd like to do then is I'd like to respond, but you know what? I want to give each guest an opportunity to respond. So I'm going to bring in Tolek. If you could respond to Drunvalo's the information, does it mirror anything that you are currently aware of, or that you are getting from your Andromedan Council in any way?
I believe it's a highly fascinating topic. It's one that I encounter personally because of the amount of telepathic communication that I do with my personal contacts with those executive management members of the Andromeda Council. And there are typically 2 to 3 that I communicate with. And I'm specifically using the words communicate because when we communicate back and forth, I get a combination of information that I hear in terms of the spoken word, and I don't hear it through my ears, I hear it in my mind. And the other thing I get along with the spoken word is images. I'll get real quick sort of snapshot images as a way for them to show me whatever concept it is we're trying to talk about. So I'm familiar with the concept of the transmission of information, knowledge, data, whatever, in an audio form and in a picture form. And interestingly enough, it doesn't, I think Drunvalo will appreciate what I'm about to say, distance doesn't seem to matter. As an example, Vice Chairwoman Tanya or the commander of the primary Andromeda Council Biosphere, we could communicate, much like I'm communicating with all of you guys right now, and much like we're communicating simultaneously right now via Skype. We're having this instantaneous communication, but the energy of the spoken word is coming out of our mouths. Well, likewise, when I have this telepathic communication with my personal contacts on the council, they are billions of miles away out in space. Now, I'm not able to put that in terms of light years, but I know that they're billions of miles away. And so I guess the point to everything I just said is that space and distance are irrelevant when it comes to the transmission of mind, brain matter waves, and, if you will, pictographs. Distance seems absolutely irrelevant. The second thing that I can bring to the table, and Drunvalo and I were chatting about this just in the past couple of weeks, within about the past 6 or 8 months, I happened to pick up a book randomly in a used bookshop down in Arizona, and the concept of the book, it happened to be a series, and I happened to grab number 3 or 4 out of the series. But the cover looked interesting. The concepts in the front, inside cover and back cover looked interesting, and I said, this could be good. Well, to make a long story short, what I learned is that in this particular science fiction book, there were characters, as in any book, and they were visiting another world, attempting to meet some people, and there were some younger people of that species who were called wind readers. And that was their metaphor, their way of saying there's a whole bunch of data going through the airwaves around a planet. And they sort of travel in horizontal bands. And for a young initiate who's hypersensitive to picking up this kind of information, it was almost overwhelming for them because there's too much data. They would have to learn to discern which frequency or which band to focus in on. And as I mentioned that to Drunvalo, he said, I'll paraphrase what you said, wow, that's kind of amazing. The writer of that book must have had some really keen insight. And so, Drunvalo, I'll kick it back to you if you want to share some comments on my observations, on both of them.
Unfortunately, your sound cut out for about 3 minutes, and I didn't get it all. I'm really sorry.
Okay. Well, that's all right.
I heard the part where you were talking about telepathy over long periods of time or great distances. And I work with the Kogi Indians and the Arhuacos in Colombia, South America. And I've watched telepathy through those guys. And it doesn't matter. They're able to take a person, and I've had this experience many times with them, where they not only talk to you, but they will give you the images you want. And then when they're ready, they wrap those images around you, and you're there. You are actually there. You can walk around in a different location on their mountains. And so I agree with what you're saying on this in terms of the telepathic aspect. But what I'm referring to in terms of this is more than telepathy. The universe, as I see it right now, every single star is connected to every single star in existence and every planet in existence with a two-way movement of electrical energy that is connecting everything together. And this is very clear to me at this point. And I think it's becoming very clear even into science. Now, I know there's a group called the Electric Universe, and they have also come up with the same understanding of all of this. And so...
what I also touched on was the topic of that sci-fi book that I purchased about 6 or 8 months ago, and how there were certain characters in the book that were visiting an off-world planet, and how some younger initiates of that race of people who were hypersensitive to these multiple bandwidths, these multiple frequencies of energy and data traveling through the airwaves around the planet, it could almost be too much for them. They had to learn how to discern the information they were looking for and focus in on it so they wouldn't be, if you will, overloaded.
This is exactly where, if you're moving through this with meditation, this is exactly what you have to do. You have to be able to pinpoint something out of a near infinite amount of information that's moving everywhere. Because when one person puts out either a telepathic message, or if it's even done through computers, the entire universe has access to it, not just the person you're aiming for. And you can't stop it. You can't hide. There's no secrets or anywhere. And so the whole way that we deal with our relationships and how we interpret everything is different under these conditions. I think it's beautiful. I think that we are consciously entering into a fully conscious universe, and this is happening right now. And so,
do you feel that have you or the scientists observed any difference in either the wavelength or the frequency of, if you will, the character of information, data, as compared to what would be the character of feelings and the vibration of those? Higher, lower, any comparison?
That's a very good question. Well, my main expertise is sacred geometry, and and everything is geometrical, including feelings. Love has a geometrical pattern. It's a three-dimensional thing you can hold in your hand. Greed has another one, and that's all been worked out a long time ago, and has been put into the science journals. They know this is fact now, and so really, it doesn't really matter if you're thinking those kinds of things that are feelings or emotions and all this stuff, or if it's brain waves or heart frequencies. It is all being transferred equally. And so when you transfer anything through these major cosmic waves, the person on the other side is not just getting what you're wanting them to see, but they're also getting all your feelings and emotions and everything else that's associated with that. This has been my experience.
Wow.
I see that in day-to-day interaction with people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and some of the people, especially females that are empathic, I think they've done this forever, but just don't know that to what extent these abilities that or these potentials that humans actually have. And so from a medical standpoint, as everybody on this call knows, that scientifically people are said to be using 3 to 5% of their DNA and only 8 to 10% of their brain function. And so as we move forward into these energies and this, what some people are calling the Ascension process, and these new understandings and awarenesses like you're bringing forth, Drunvalo, I wonder, as all of this turns on and this acceptance about this comes forth through humanity, what does that look like? What do people look like that can use 100% of their DNA and 100% of their brain? And I'm going to bring Brad in on this to have him weigh in on what Drunvalo and Tolek has said so far and what I just kind of prefaced right there.
Yeah, I'm basically just nodding my head in the background with everything that's being shared. And really it is a factor beyond telepathy, because telepathy in that sense really does bring forward an interfacial quality when we're looking at how we can communicate beyond vocality. It's really just looking at the instantaneity of how we understand our own bodies, about how our bodies function. I don't even have to convey a precise thought in order for my hand to do a gesture while I'm talking right now. It's all that instantaneity and that we are an organism, and basically looking at it on a microcosmic level from the smallest amount of bacteria, from a macrocosmic level to our galaxy or to our universe. Everything is just that instantaneity in regards to a frequency of shifting neurons, of frequencies that are all completely instantaneous. Doing my channeling work for nearly about 6 years now, I channel an entity known as Adronis, that is a Syrian consciousness. And not just channeling as well too. I have also developed what's known as conscious matrix communication, and it's really just being able to understand that there's something so much more intimate beyond the degree of telepathy that we understand as well too. It's exactly what Drunvalo is talking about as well, that this is just beyond telepathy, that nothing really is secret, that it's basically just the organism of the universe expressing itself internally through the ideas of the stars that could represent its organs, through the ideas of of the planets and its life forms that exist on there that could represent the cells of the body. When we're really looking at the capacity in regards to utilizing 100% on our DNA, well, our DNA is a universal, you could say it's just a universal factory of unlimited potential. We hold memory, we hold galactic history, we hold universal history, we hold, light frequencies. And so what would it be like to see a person 100% transformed through their DNA? It's just really something we can't explain. It would be as close to light or feeling of even pure consciousness as possible, simply because you just couldn't understand the interface of reality in regards to that scope. It's just that you would be the universe would be you, as that symbiotic connection between that person and between the universe itself is coplanar, is coalescent with each other. And so I also do believe, yes, that science is really starting to move more into that alignment of really getting a grasp of understanding the connection to oneness, because, throughout all ancient civilizations in our past, we understand that, the nature of oneness, the connection, and their establishment between the flower of life, between everything that represents our sacred geometry, which is the natural measurements of the universe, the natural measurements of consciousness. So really, if there was the opportunity that we had 100% usage of our brains, 100% usage of our DNA, 100% usage of our heart, you would probably be as close to God consciousness as you could possibly imagine.
Brad, Drunvalo, this is Tolek. I'd like to pose this question to the both of you. What have either of you, individually and or your teams, been able to observe in terms of, at least currently, the differences of both intuitive communication between women and, if you will, higher density beings or higher dimensional beings, as compared to men doing the same kind of thing? I have a handle on what I think the answer is, but I'm certainly interested in finding out what the empirical data is, what you guys have learned in terms of the different species, current male as compared to current female.
John Bello, did you want to take this first, and I can follow up?
Okay. My observations were is that our sun began in 1972 moving from a hydrogen-based sun to a helium-based sun. And there was a huge pulse that came off of the sun, which was measured and recorded by Bell Labs. And they felt this is one of the greatest things most powerful things that's ever happened coming from the sun at that time. It was a long time ago. I think it was August 8th of 1972. Maybe it was August 7th. And since that time, from my inner guidances, have been asking me to continually watch the nature of relationships during this period of time. And what I found is that we are not on exactly a harmonic frequency, which should be golden mean, but it's not because of this blast. And so what happens from my observation is that if a male speaks to a female, she hears something different, not exactly the same. It's not exactly what the male is trying to put across. And then when she speaks back to him, he hears something different. However, and so that's caused huge amounts of problems and divorce rates and everything else from what we're seeing. But it's probably more than that. But at the same time, two men can speak with each other much clearer, and two women can speak to each other much clearer, is what I've found. But the opposite polarities are having a tremendously difficult time.
Yeah, and I feel that as well, too. I guess definitely back in those times that really was a lot of the norm. What I'm discovering right now is that in our own population, we're actually discovering a very strong intermixing pertaining to what could be loosely referred to as the masculine and feminine integration between both gender forms. And what I've discovered a lot, just from a lot of the people that I'm talking to, because funny, in an interesting way, I connect a lot more with females than I do with males. And that's basically because I feel I understand them a lot more than actually the males right now. And I didn't used to be that way, prior to the awakening. But what I've discovered a lot more is that there is this particular harmonic convergence of energies on a masculine and feminine level that associate themselves to a blending of consciousness between these polarities existing within gender-based qualities. So you could have a female that could basically have a lot of masculine energy within herself and actually act like, quote-unquote, one of the guys. And you could have a male that would be just the same. And that our explosion of population on this planet right now is really just all part of this huge inauguration of different unified-based energies that are coming together, all genders, all different types of people from all walks of life, and how that game is now just starting to change, because it's no longer about the passé belief of feeling that, a woman may have a hard time talking to a male, et cetera, et cetera. The indoctrinations of those particular beliefs can be, based upon a vibratory attraction. But I think what's happening right now is that we're having so much intermixing between, people who are heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual, et cetera, and that they are just wonderful, prolific examples of the idea about how the masculine and feminine energies are blending and binding together into their own collective states as a human being. So I'm noticing right now that it's very interchangeable. I can basically see that a male could be just as empathic as many of the females that I've seen. It's all just based upon the variety of energies that are intermixing in regards to our collective consciousness right now, which is basically that kind of reverberation, fluctuation factor we're experiencing, I think, through the sun and many other means.
And you know what, Brad, with that, what you just said, what comes to mind to me is like from a higher vantage point in these higher dimensions, what I gather from, say, fifth dimension and above, a lot of the beings, or, well, in my awareness, from what I understand, the gender role is a lot different there than here, and we're in this polarity where I just have the feeling and the knowing that it's more androgynous from these higher vantage points, and so as we come closer to these higher vibrations, we are less separate, and as we become less separate, we don't need this intense polarity that we've come here to experience. And with that, I want to get KP on the line here because he hasn't had a chance to. And then maybe, Brad, you could come in after him, or Drunvalo or Tolik. But I'd like to get KP. Whatever you've been thinking, I'm sure you're itching to get on the line, and we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you much. I'm not really itching. I'm kind of listening to all this, a lot of things that I've never heard of these lines. But what were they called? Berkelian?
Birkeland. It's Birkeland.
Birkeland. Oh, okay. That's probably okay. Because I thought it was either Brooklyn, so I got to speak with a Brooklyn accent, or Berkelian, which I experienced when I drove by there last year. But a lot of this, I can relate to and understand what you're talking about. I feel like there's, it's all an illusion anyway. This whole thing is a grand illusion, but the whole thing is, for me, it's playing my part to allow, to be a part of moving away from it. And I would say one of the most powerful books that I didn't fully read it's called The Tao of Physics, which you probably read. But when I first was coming into the spiritual understanding, I read this thing, because my degrees, I got a degree in chemistry, and I was, all about the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. I learned that, and it was like I understood that. I said the fact of observing something that you change it. And when I read this Tao of Physics, I began to realize, I said, oh, we're all connected. Everything's connected, not just us as human beings, as human body appearing things, but everything is connected. And I personally, at this moment, have felt the pathway being really just not trying, but it's just being connected, realizing that I'm connected to everything. And that includes insects, that includes birds, that includes the beautiful plants that we have here. And, and today I take this walk, and it's like just sort of an intuitive feeling. It's time to go out and take a walk. And I've been looking for lilikoi. I've been looking for them. I keep my eyes, anything yellow over here that's either on the ground or in a tree. They're very valuable. And I was looking today, and I just happened to see one way back in the trees, and a lilikoi was a bright yellow, and it was almost as if, now I realize afterwards, it's like, they're almost speaking to me, because the ones you could see that they hang on a vine, these lilikoi passion fruit, they hang on a vine which grows in the trees, and they're up there, and I've seen these green ones. And so at some level, I feel like these ones were communicating that, hey, we're over here, listen to us, and I ended up finding 8 of these. Now, how that relates to Birkeland lines, I'm not sure, but I can tell you it's a great when you realize that it's a connection. And within the last few months, since I returned from the mainland on a trip over there, I've realized places have found me. And so I don't know. I'm not giving much of a technical interpretation of these events, and that's really doesn't feel like it's my kuleana or my path. But I totally understand that it's almost like there's more and more people who are communicating either telepathically, or you get this instant, knowing that, I've got it, this is my thing, or something is happening over here. So I call this person, and the person that came to mind, all of a sudden they realized that I was 3 seconds ago, I was thinking about you.
Yes, and people reach out and go, "Hey, Capelli, how you doing?" Bang.
Right.
You
So
know,
I don't know about. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I can relate a short story to confirm what you're talking about. A buddy of mine who heads up one of the technology departments at the University of Arizona was having some difficulty with his foot. And a friend of his who is highly communicative with that part of nature, which are trees, said to him, you have cactus all around your place, and there are some large saguaros that are telling me to tell you that they will help you. Go over to this cactus and stand next to it, and it will draw the painful energy out of your foot, and they will drive it into the ground for you. And this, I don't know how this man was, from a technical perspective, I don't know how this man was receiving this information, but I do know that my friend went over to this one particularly big, quite large saguaro and stood next to it, and he could actually feel the pain in his foot, the energy of the pain in his foot being drawn into the ground. Now, I won't say that it completely removed all of the pain, but 65-70% of it started to disappear almost instantly. So, it's an anecdotal story, but it sort of confirms the fact that nature is able to communicate, and it has intelligence. And there are certain humans who are able to communicate with different aspects of nature. Some people with dolphins, some people with saguaro cactus, other people with trees, other people with horses. And Drunvulo, I would imagine that this, Drunvulo and Brad, this all plays into it's all energy, it's all data, it's all moving. And at some level, people are able to pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing that Joe was also talking about as well, too, is in regards to a higher dimensional perspective, where eventually there will lead to an androgyny situation past the male and the female. And that's essentially correct. Basically, with a lot of the contacts that I've had, a lot of the particular beings that I've just made conscious connection with are highly androgynous, and that they are really surpassing the male-female cliche, so to speak. That's just a part of a feeling of manifestation-based separation. That's just looking to bring it back together. And the prior factor to that arrangement of actually becoming androgynous is actually starting to see your culture starting to become intermixed in regards to different polarized energies with the masculine and the feminine. But also like what John Vella was talking about as well too, with the Birkeland currents as well too. I liken it to the idea of just basically seeing kind of a ripple effect in regards to all the energy, in regards to the solar winds, in regards to the current that our own star system, that our own galaxy is pumping into ourselves, and that we see these beautiful, rays of light that represent like the aurora borealis, and that it's all just a part of different frequency arrangements. And we're all just being handpicked, so to speak, for certain people to really become a lot more communicative in regards to our environments. You have people who will talk to cacti, you'll have people who will talk to berries, and you'll have people that talk to fish and dogs and cats.
Right.
Exactly. And all of these are just part of a symbiosis that we're starting to work together back into the state of the earth. And that, really this is going to become a lot more prolific in our times ahead, within the next decade or two or the next generations. We're going to see a lot of these children that are just coming forward and, just being able to talk naturally to crystals, talk naturally to the land, and actually being able to talk to people specifically about where they can go to land to plant fertile crops. Exactly where they can go to land to, perform ceremony. A lot of these particular new children are just so in tune in regards to their DNA activation, in regards to their own genetic properties, that it would be of no surprise to me that a lot of the Birkeland currents, so to speak, in that way, would be our participation in regards to an influx of certain forms of unified codons that are basically bonding together into the DNA and actually activating these young children as well as ourselves slowly but surely into these new understandings about how we're becoming more symbiotic and seeing more of the organism of the earth as basically just this beautiful blue spacecraft that's just floating through the universe, helping us to reach a higher state of evolution based upon its current trajectory throughout the cosmos. So it really is just very, very beautiful to reflect on. Beautiful to reflect on.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brad. In fact, I'm really on the same page with all of you guys on all of this stuff. Every one of these things could be expanded out for hours in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
But to go back to the Birkeland currents again, and by the way, the aurora borealis is caused by the Birkeland currents of the Earth.
That's right. Yeah.
And but I'll relate something to you that probably not too many people are aware of because it's been kept secret for so long. But the Birkeland currents, yes, the science thinks that they are the ones that make this instantaneous transmission from one point to another. And but I have my doubts, and I think I'm going to throw this out, not just for you, but for the audience and for people who are thinking about this, to see what you think about it. I've spent a lot of time in Russia, and my wife's been spending the last 5 years over there. And I work with the National Academy of Sciences of Moscow and a little bit of National Academy of Sciences of Siberia. And there's a team that was connected with them. There was about, I'm guessing about 30 Russian scientists and one German scientist. And they began a research program that ended in about toward the end of the 1990s, and then when Russia fell apart, though, they just completely went silent. They hid everything. But in my discussions with them, they gave me their theory that had been written in Russian. They put it into English for me so I could read it. And this is before I knew about the Birkeland currents, and so. What they discovered is this is another level of thinking about the universe in a way that most people probably haven't. But gravity itself, that field that holds all the physical stuff all together in the universe, what the Russians found is a living being. It's conscious and it's alive. And they learned how to communicate with it. And they knew when you were communicating with it because when you did, you floated off the ground about a foot or so. You broke the connection with gravity in a physical form, and you connected with them in a different way. And so the mathematics that were created out of this over time, which have slowly been released, shows that gravity has this special connection which sounds like Birkeland currents, and that they can transmit data from any point to any point, anywhere in zero time. There's no it's not nanoseconds or anything like that. It's literally zero time. And so, when they discovered all of this stuff, they decided, well, how are we going to introduce this to the world? And they came up with kind of an interesting situation where they decided that they were going to approach the entertainment area of it. The reason being is that the movies and the music and everything are losing over $1 trillion a year from theft, and they figured that if they set this up with them, that if it didn't work, that they wouldn't be losing anything more than they're already losing. The banking systems are also interested in this, and they've already committed to huge amounts of money to be able to see if this is happening, but they're not going to do it until they find out if it actually really works. So about maybe 15 years ago, approximately in that time in there, in Germany, they moved out of Russia to do this because they were worried about what the mafia, et cetera, that getting control of this whole thing. And they moved into Munich, Germany, and they set up a test, and they used two computers. It didn't really matter what they were. That's not important. And they brought in 500 scientists from all over the world to witness this. They put one of the computers in Munich and the other one somewhere else in the world. And part of these 500 people were in Munich, and part of them were wherever this other computer was. And using the instruments that they had, they were able to transmit data, very complex data, such as high-definition television, etc., from one computer to the other computer in 0 time. And we're able to prove that. And so we know from now, at least I know from now, that the gravity has the same situation that the scientists now are tying to Birkeland currents. What I believe is that Birkeland currents are attracted to gravity. We know that's true because when they've measured this, when a Birkeland current leaves the sun and arrives on the Earth, it hits here instantaneously. There is no time in between, and that's been documented in labs in the United States, and it's been further documented even watching small one-celled animal amoeba and things like this. That you could see them I've watched these screens where you watch these things just floating around in a liquid, and very slowly just having it look like just doing their life, and the instant a CME comes off, which takes 8 minutes and 19 seconds to reach the Earth, but the instant the CME actually happened, these little one-celled beings became extremely excited. They could see through them that this transmission from the sun to the Earth was instantaneous, and so And so you can see that the Birkeland currents coming from the sun find all the planets and all the moons and every piece of matter in the entire solar system. We don't know about the rest of it. Well, they do know about the rest of it, but they can see here in our solar system that this is an instantaneous thing everywhere in our solar system. And so what I believe is really happening is the Birkeland currents are attracted to the gravity. The moment that they intend to leave the sun, they're already there, and this is I know a different way of perceiving things on a physical level, but this is now becoming real in this world, and so because this was attracted, what I think is actually happening is the Birkeland currents are, as the moment that they connect with gravity, it isn't the Birkeland currents that make this transition in 0 time across any distance. It's the gravity field that does it. And the Birkeland currents are just the electrical conduit that connects into it. This is what it looks like to me right now. And so what this is going to mean for humanity is hard to even imagine. Sure, all the other dimensional levels are affected by all of this. We are just one big living being. And it's already connected. Of course it is. I mean, if it's 13.4 billion years, definitely we've had time to get connected. But the Earth is not, even though the rest of the universe is connected to us, we haven't reached a level where we're able to pick up the phone and connect with them. And so I've been doing experiments with my people here, and we have been able to connect in with the grids above the Earth, and we can already begin to see how this takes place. We're just beginning to understand it. But if we're beginning to understand this and be able to do it, we're not the only ones. We are about to make a transformation that is just unbelievably huge. I don't know how you could get any bigger than everything that is. And it doesn't even matter what we know is out there is probably nothing to what is really out there. And so there, all of life is interconnected now on all dimensional levels and everywhere. But the idea of ascension, which is moving from here to the fourth dimension and the fifth, and et cetera, and these kinds of things, does not look like that's what's going to happen. It looks like to me that when we open up to a certain level of our own consciousness, that we are going to be instantaneously plugged in to the whole thing all at once. And that is the part that until I actually do this, I don't know what that really means. And so I would love to hear what you guys think about this.
Yeah, I mean, you really bring up some great points there, Bill, as well. And I think that the understanding relating to the ascension in that sense, or different densities, is basically of the capacity to which you're speaking about, is the idea of actually being to the point plugged in as well. And it is really amazing looking back at all of these energies, that represent the Berkeley currents, really looking at the instantaneity of how it is. It's kind of like going back to that example I was talking about earlier, is that when you're allowing your body to move, it's just instantaneously responding. And so it's basically representing another type of conscious magnetics, another type of magnetics that gravity itself may represent. Gravity by itself may not even be gravity. It's just something that we're attempting to understand as gravity that can also represent different forms to it. So, I mean, science definitely has a lot of things to figure out with that. And I feel it's almost just like, again, looking into the different platforms of an organism. And you're looking into these organisms and seeing exactly, how our pineal gland functions as well, too, with the water contained within our pineal gland, our brain getting lubricated with, serotonin, melatonin, dimethyltryptamine, all of these automatic processes that we're now starting to witness on a galactic scale, on a universal scale, is now just starting to bring us more into this deeper, wider understanding of saying, my goodness, just as quickly as I'm able to receive a thought, the amoeba in the petri dish are able to get super excited about this CME ejection. And so it's like an instantaneity of that particular thought magnetic. So like I feel as well too, it's just, we have so much more to discover, and that we are moving more into that platform. I think just with the discoveries, not only on a scientific level, but seeing a lot of the new people that are coming here on the planet and seeing what the kind of abilities they have, we're getting right up to that point where we are feeling that plugged-in connection, more so with the universe on a dimensional density scale, for us just to be waiting to discover.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're watching. I mean, in China, they've already put into to Nature's Journal. They have recorded 3 human beings walking through solid rock, and so we are definitely beginning to move into another level of existence in how we perceive what everything is. The thing that I'm really want to introduce and is that the speed at which this may happen, which we kind of think it's an evolutionary type thing, may not be. It may be that when we connect in, we are there, and that is something that I think we kind of need to be prepared for.
I was having this is a total brief story. I was having a conversation with Mark Kimmel within the past about 3 weeks, and we were talking about the difference between his perspective and mine in terms of how the Andromedans see things happening. And he was saying that this vibratory process of people either becoming fourth dimension or fifth dimension or sixth dimension, either at the same time or through evolutionary, isn't even close to what's going on. He's talking about the fact that we are all fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, seventh dimension, eighth dimension. We are all this simultaneously. So it's not even the fact that there is reincarnation. It's the fact that there's almost simultaneous incarnation of, this may not be the right word, but slices of, fragments of what we might consider to be our individual soul essence. And that this individual soul essence that runs this Tolek body it's also running a 4D body, a 5D body, a 7D body.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I had a conversation with the commander of the biosphere one time, and we were talking about some of the things that, and it's hard to talk about some of this stuff because I don't have all the words to talk about events that haven't existed yet because of the way we use time here, but that I've already done or been. And he's talking about me when I'm doing things as a sixth-dimensional entity. And I said, wait a second. I thought that when I work and I'm on the Andromeda Council Biosphere, I'm a mid-upper 4D entity. He says you are, but you're also sixth, and there's a time when you'll be ninth. And I went, what?
Yeah. Yeah, Tolek, I agree with that. In fact, that's my experience of my own life. I know that I'm existing on all dimensional levels. There are, however, some levels when you talk about a particular human being, they may only be on 10 or 15 levels. And this is what we call our higher selves that are connected up. They're all connected together. But eventually, it goes to everything. There is nothing left over. We're about to move dimensionally. This is one thing that I would like to hear what you have to say, you guys, is that from way Melchizedek sees what's going on right now is this idea of ascension. It's always going on, and you have part of the universe going up in ascension, and you have the other half coming down all the time, depending on a lot of situations. But we exist. The whole universe can be seen as just harmonics of music, and we exist on these different dimensional levels are just really notes or that are tied to that. But there's octaves above us. There's 100. What I have been able to identify as 144 different dimensional levels within this universe that we're in right now, and they jump up again to. There's 12 notes in it. It's the chromatic scale, and there's 12 overtones in between each one of them, giving you the 144 the 12 primary dimensional levels and the 12 secondary dimensional levels between each one of these. But what Melchizedek sees here, and it makes a lot of sense when you start looking at the Greys and the reptiles and a lot of things that they've been doing. The universe is about to be recalled. We are in the process of a movement where this universe has been around for a long enough time to experience all the possibilities. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. And it's the time has come where a decision has been made to take the life that is in this universe now and move it up to the next level of existence. Right. And that's what the process is. It's what everything has been aimed at from everything that I can see, no matter. And so, yes, we will go into the fourth dimension for a certain length of time, very short, couple years or so. And then we move into the fifth, which they're no longer in polarity from my understanding anymore. Right. That polarity ends after the fourth dimension you're in. So when you talk about Andromeda, that is simply a natural event that occurs from the fifth dimension up. There's no sex in the way that we think of sex now. There is, but not in the way that we think of it now. Not with bodies, not physical forms.
Yeah, I've experienced it. I'll use a different word. Love making between higher density people is much more of an energy exchange. Yeah. It's almost a interplexing flow of energy, moving back and forth from one being into another, through one being back through another.
Yeah.
And I just want to shift this conversation just in terms of a different direction. KP, you perform in front of a lot of people in Hawaii as you go to different venues and play. Can you share with me, because you're out there a lot, share with me what you experience when you see people responding to certain songs, certain tones, certain notes, expressions that they use? Because I'm sure that although you're playing, you're also participating and how they're responding?
Well, this, I can really. First of all, it's been a little while since I performed out like that, but I do know that when you're in alignment with I've always felt when I'm really playing, it's like I'm not playing.
I know.
When I'm really vocalizing, I'm not vocalizing. It's almost like the song or the music plays itself. That connection is definitely, there's a definite effect when you've got people who are there, and they're there. I feel like a lot of times they're there to receive the music, but the music comes out so that it's connected with them. And I know people have told me that they just were drawn in and they would start responding to it. And when I there's an energy that comes in, that something that comes in that really it's much greater. I've known for a while it's a much greater energy than just my own facet of the music. So I do have one question about all this, and it's like kind of like this is so much information. It's like it's a different level of information. First of all, it's the first time I've ever heard the name Birkeland, and the closest I ever come is when I go to Costco. It's all Kirkland. And there's a very strong current sometimes that draws people from wherever they are to the nearest Costco, and that's a Kirkland current. So, but my question is that, do you guys have an insight as to why is it necessary to understand all these things about these currents or these whatever it is, about how the universe works, or is this something that we go along and we're following our path, we do our kind of doing our thing, and whatever our path seems to be, and then all this is all this ascension going to happen all at once? Or is it something that, because it's like, it gets really complicated. It sounds really complicated to me. And I don't know, maybe it's just for certain ones.
Well, KP, it is complicated, but it's also very simple.
Yes.
It isn't really, a human brain can easily understand the entire universe. It isn't that hard. And a lot more, really. So yes, I think that from my discussions with Mother Earth, and she says she is in charge of the ascension of this planet. It's not an individual thing. It is something that she is orchestrating, and that's from my point of view is what she said. And I think from what I know now, I really thought this was going to be more like popcorn going off for a while, and it may still start that way. But I think that ascension is what I know for sure from a Melchizedek consciousness point of view, is that this is occurring everywhere. This is not just on Earth. This is an entirely universal thing that is going on from all levels, and not just in the big cosmos, but also in the other cosmos, which we call the microcosm. The stars that we look out there outside and seem so infinitely big, we have the same thing inside the center of the Earth, or inside the center of every star, only it's infinitely small. And the laws are different there than they are out here, but the understanding of everything, we are going to understand it. We have to get it there. What's more important right now than understanding the larger picture, I think, is understanding the internal structure of our own body and how the brain and the heart need to be connected in a certain kind of way. It's been severed for a long time. And the bigger fields of the magnetic fields that HeartMath at Stanford have discovered around our body, and the Merkaba fields that are huge that extend out for 55 to 60 feet, and these beams of light that come out of your pineal gland when you turn it on in a certain kind of way, that create a halo around your head that has now been scientifically documented that it's there because they can photograph it under the right conditions. And so a lot of the things that we have inside of us need to be understood. It is not hard. I can teach people in 5 days how to do this. So it isn't like it used to take 20, 30, 40 years through Tibetan Buddhism or through Kundalini Yoga or Kriya Yoga. But now, because science has been able to give us things that they didn't have before, and because we can translate a lot of these ancient documents into modern-day terms and concepts that we can understand so much easier, we can get this very quickly. We can know exactly what to do really fast, and millions of people are doing it. The new kids that are coming in from all over the universe, they just eat it up. They just get it. They get it so fast it's scary to me, and it's beautiful what is happening, but there's no reason. One thing I really need to say is there's no reason for fear in any of this. This is a natural thing. We're all going to be fine through all of this, and we have so much assistance from the universe to us right now that the likelihood of anything going wrong is just about zero. And so...
Oh yes, it's very interesting as well too, because like I look into the Akashic records a lot as well too, and basically going into the Akashic records, you are per se able to travel very distant into the future, and a lot of the particular forms of existence that I've seen on Earth, well up to about the year of 3000, it's an Earth unlike anything we could possibly imagine, and I've been doing hundreds of different Akashic records since 2010. And being able to go into that state and just feel this presence of how beautiful the Earth is, how connected its people are. You know, what we have generated on the Earth is beyond anything that, it's just beautiful doesn't even begin to describe it. Just being able to actually look into what we would consider to be the future on a linear-based scale, we're going to make some marvelous breakthroughs, and it's that humanity is working alongside with the Earth, and it is very symbiotic. So really, I just see I'm in agreement with all of you guys about what's being said here, and the science itself is going to be so much more consciousness technology based. It's really going to be it's almost that we could propel a thought, and the thought becomes an interface into a technology, and here we are materializing things. Here we are understanding that we can actually move into a quantum level to access and diagnose particular illnesses that can be healed at nearly an instant, and being able to just be in one place or many places at the same time, bilocation, teleportation, etc. It's all on our grasp right now, and that if we're looking this far, it's just it's almost like we have our iPods and we have our iPads. Looking into 1,000 years in the future, being able to actually sift into different parallel realities, being able to astral project onto different planets is just as popular as you having an iPad. That's how exciting our future is going to be.
Yeah, except we're going to throw all that stuff, all that technology.
Exactly.
We're going to throw it away because eventually, real quickly, we're going to realize that our internal technology can do anything that external technology could do.
Yeah, technology is just a tool and a mimic in regards to what has already been achieved through consciousness. So consciousness will always be the forerunner. Technology is just that little mimicking turtle in the background trying to copy where the hare has already ran. So
exactly.
And
David.
Sorry. I'm sorry, KP interrupted. Go ahead.
That's okay. Well, I just a note along that line. One of the last David Wilcock radio show that he did, I think back in April, he mentioned that the higher up you go in galactic consciousness, or in the more technology you get, you have to use. In other words, the higher up you go, the less technology you need, and he mentioned that. So that's all I had to say.
You don't have to go too far high up.
No, you definitely do not.
That's right.
There are actually people now who I've met, even myself included, that are actually able to create a very stable Merkaba vessel. And the Merkaba vessel itself, based upon certain spin ratios, can take you to, wow, just anywhere, really. And it's just about you knowing the codes and you really understanding kind of like a galactic-based activation for yourself in regards to you working and sampling certain spin ratios between the Merkaba fields and actually being able to travel through dimensions, really helping yourself to even look back at other areas within your life streams. It is really amazing. You know, if you're talking about technology, we're looking at consciousness, and you're looking at something that can be no greater than that. So, I mean, really, we're able to do this now. You don't have to wait till 4D, 5D, 6D. I really don't worry about dimensions, and I don't worry about densities. It's all just about what's here right now, what's capable that we're able to do right now. If we are able to measure densities and we're able to measure dimensions at some point, fantastic. Right now is just seeing exactly what the empowerment factor is that you can perform through yourself, seeing others do these wonderful things, and that consciousness is indeed where it's at. You know, technology, again, just the tortoise behind the hare.
Hey, Joe, I'm going to touch for a moment back on the healthcare aspect of this, because you see people every day. I'm keenly aware of, in my interaction with people, each individual person has their own experiences, which creates the sum total of who they are, but not only who they are, who they project, who they of themselves project out to the world, and the kind of energy that they project. You see a lot of female patients in your practice. Can you tell me about tell all of us about some of the nuanced differences in terms of how, because I know women are just more in tune energetically with themselves, how they respond to certain treatments, how they feel about what they're about to go through, and how they bring their feelings or their emotions forward, which in fact is measurable energy. The topic at hand right now is energy as it affects their decision making, because I think they're much more in tune with the energy of what they're doing and how it feels, whereas men are more analytical. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. First, what I got to say is I really believe that thought becomes reality. And so when Drunvalo, we're having this merger here between experiencers and science. And that's what's going on as above, so below. In this conversation, we're merging this together, but we're also, what he's saying is that we're about to be not only experiencing it, but we can explain why. And so why is that important that we need to explain this? The reason that it's important is because thought becomes reality. And we've been programmed through what we were talking about earlier, the Greys or reptilians. I mean, there's a reality there that has influenced humanity in such a way that allows people to be programmed or think a certain thought. And what you think is what you project out. And so I look at the human body as the mind, body, spirit, emotional, and energetic. So if I'm looking at an individual, whether male or female, I look at the whole component of that person, that being, and what does it mean to be human? So I believe we're spiritual beings living out a human experience. And so with those 5 aspects, I have to kind of look at, in order to make a proper diagnosis, say they have a thyroid problem. And so the first thing I think of is, are you not speaking your truth? And right. They're always amazed, like, oh my gosh, like, right. How did you know that? And it's because I've studied more than just the traditional, or what we consider traditional medicine. I've studied energy healing. I've studied hypnotherapy, which that gets into the alpha, beta, theta waves that we were talking about earlier. All right. of this stuff is connected and interconnected. And so as I'm listening, I have so much information that's coming through. And of course, I could respond to every one of you guys, but I'm allowing this steady flow. And I'm seeing that there's a theme here of a little bit of confusion because there's different levels of awareness. And so, again, out in the public, there are people that are coming from different points of view. And that's why it's important to have a definition, so to speak, so you have a thought process to kind of get behind, to make an understanding and therefore a thought, and then that's how you change your reality. That's how you shift. and we were talking about this part earlier, is that everything is simultaneously. As you shift your thought, you shift sometimes into different dimensions, because the thought comes first, and if you have a negative feeling, it drops you down a vibration, which can put you in a lower density. If you have a good or positive thought, it can shift you into a higher density. And so why is it important scientifically to understand these things? It's because when you can truly prove it to yourself, then you can believe it. And if you believe it, then it becomes your reality. And
then you can act on it.
Absolutely.
That's
and
right.
So the difference with the male and female, to me, is women, I think, because at least in the United States, in my experience, is the culture is such that men aren't allowed to cry. They have to be tough guys and all these types of things. And because I'm a man, I was brought up that way too. And so women are more, they appear to me, in my experience, to be more sensitive and more empathic. And so, yes, they're a feeling type person. And my personal experience is that any dis-ease that an individual has starts with the emotional body. And I talked about the mind, body, spirit, emotional, and the energetic. And so if you feel bad about yourself, that starts with a thought. You have this thought, this perception, this programmed perception where, well, I'm too big. Well, that gives you a low vibration if you have that thought about yourself, which creates a vibration which brings you down. So I think it's important to express all of these variables, at least many of them, because there are so many to try to cover, to try to make sense and make or help people understand, because basically we're coming from different points of view or different perspectives from, say, 3, 4, 5D. And when I'm saying this, when I'm talking to somebody in my day-to-day practice, I can see right where they're at. I can be like, oh, this person is in 3D. That doesn't make them less. It doesn't make them worse of a person or somebody that's in, say, 4D awareness. That doesn't make them any better. It just means I can see where they are in their understanding and their consciousness. And I think that there's rules or universal law that goes within a particular understanding, if that makes sense. So I know I rambled on there, but I have so much information from all the stuff that you guys have been saying. I'm trying to give you some clarity, and because there's so many variables to everything we're saying to help make this clear. But when you're coming from different points of view and different awarenesses, and that's what universal talk is all about. It's trying to put the pieces to the puzzle together, but what's difficult is one of the big variables is it depends on the particular person you're talking to. You can't take, and I've always said this, you can't take a kindergartner and give them trigonometry. You have to give them the steps to work up to that. And with that, I'll give the floor to whoever.
Okay, well, I'll put 2 cents in here and say that the idea that thought manifests, first of all, it doesn't just manifest. It manifests under very, very, very specific conditions, which aren't always met. And so you can intend for something to happen, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Or even if you hold a thought for a long time, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. We've spent a long time with the Tibetans talking about this very thing. There are 3 components, like you said: the mind, the body, the mind, and the emotional body, mental body, and physical body. And those 3 things are connected together directly to spirit. And so anytime you have one thing go out of balance, like the body, it is not just emotional, but it is also mental. You can get sick from mental thoughts.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And either one of those things can cause the problem, and it's usually a combination of both. But the emotional one is stronger. I agree with that right now. There's more emotional trauma on Earth right now because of the situation we're in here than just about anything else. But so you guys have all heard that album, that CD, The Secret, where they're telling you how to manifest something from your mind. But that has a huge problem. And we're doing this, we're having this all the time. The mind is a polarized instrument. And if you create from that polarized instrument, you will get what you want, but you will also get an equal and opposite force of exactly what you don't want. And so the idea of creating through there, I've given up on it a long time ago. It does work. It's not worth it. But there's another way of creating that we have mostly forgot, which has to do with the heart. The heart is a far better way of creating things. It's a unified field. It isn't polarized, and so when you get something created through the heart, you get exactly that and nothing else. Plus, the heart has the wisdom to know how to give you that thing without causing any harm anywhere in existence. But the process is different. The process in thinking is a thinking process, and it's based on logic. And so then it goes into attention and intention of when you use these things. But the heart is really different. It isn't based on a thinking process whatsoever. It's based on imagery and images, and it's based on feelings and emotions of how these things are brought into existence. And this is a much older way of creating and bringing things into existence than the brain. And that's pretty easy to prove that, actually, because the heart is older than the brain. And I can say that just from pure science. The heart, when you go into conception, the heart begins to beat. At one point in your conception, you are simply a heart and nothing else. You are just the heart. And that heart begins to beat, even though there's no brain. Stanford's now found out that there is a brain in the heart. It's about 40,000 cells. But it's brain cells, not heart cells. So before the actual brain that we're talking about even existed, the heart was already beating. And then another part of the physiological aspect of what happens is the entire body comes out of the heart, including the brain and the arms and hands and everything else. And at that point, the heart is pulled into the chest, and now we have a fetus that we are used to. But this shows that the heart is more primal and older than the brain. And if anybody is into creating things out of nothing, I suggest that you look at the process with the heart. It's a better way to do it, and it's the way that almost everything is done inside the universe, from my view.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with anything. In fact, I totally agree. But I got to say one thing is that I really think the part of mastering oneself, being on this planet, is taking all those aspects we talked about and being in total balance. And that's the mastery of living. What does it mean to be a human being or a spiritual being living out a human experience? And so if you talked about being out of balance, and I know that I've been here, I've been so gung-ho about being in my spiritualness that I forgot about my physical body. And then I started to get dis-ease with that. And so same with the emotional, the mental. So all aspects, when you have them in balance, in sync, that is, I really believe, the true mastery of oneself. And but I do truly believe to live from the heart and not the head. And I think that's what most people are trying to move towards right now, because for so long we've been programmed to go by the head and instant gratification of the ego mind. But yes, I totally agree with you that the heart is where it's at. But I also believe that the balance of all those things we talked about is probably, in my opinion, the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take a look and just throw a nickel in with Drangolo's 2 cents. He is absolutely correct about the thought process. The whole idea in regards to that combination, thoughts create reality. In a way, it is more so as a service to your mental body, because your mental body is always going to give you the perspective. What happens if this thought becomes the reality? It's kind of like the hypothetical scenario, and it really just creates our perspective point in regards to what happens if I look outside and I get a nice big red shiny Ferrari outside there, right? That's the whole idea in regards to looking at it at a mental body. When you're playing with the collective consciousness, there's an application process to it, and that there are applications in regards to thoughts that fit the part in regards to the connection to the whole. Now, when we really play with a collective consciousness, we're basically just going through these matters of, dealing with 7 billion other human beings, as well as all the other life upon our planet. So when really manifestation comes together, it's all part of a collective process, again, as we're looking back at the Earth herself as an organism. And that as an organism, she is determining exactly through timeline sifting, through appropriate energies that are reflective of the collective consciousness, no matter how minuscule or macrocosmic, there will be aspects that will produce itself based upon a state of collective consciousness intention. And so that really is, because we can really look at the idea that our thoughts create reality, but of course there's no purple elephant in my room right now. So unless I see that on a mental plane, right? So the whole idea, and I know exactly what John Bello's talking about because I'm telling people the same thing as well too. Just be mindful of these things as well too. Really, all it takes is to be in the moment. That's really the whole key to everything. And the heart is the epicenter for that. We have the heart, as John Bello said, that is the very first organ that comes into play. And then after 49 days, the soul comes in, occupies the pineal gland, and so forth. As even said in Tibetan Book of the Dead. But really, everything that we're doing here is just that you just have to be part of the moment. You just really have to look exactly where you are right here and right now. And when you're right here in the moment, everything is possible. Everything truly is, because you are at the forefront of infinite decision. And the universe itself is simplistically complicated, and it's complicatedly simple. And that's really the paradox. I've found that through my own personal discoveries, doing this for 6 years, the more that you play with paradox, the more amazing life just gets. Because you're creating anti-systematic systems. You're producing yourself in a way that is not finite. It's even when science itself starts to play with anti-systematic system, when it starts to play with group fractal thinking. This is where everything, we're talking about the waves and the currents and the gravities. Wait till you get into fractal group thinking and you start to get into this and you start to broaden this approach. And you take a theme, you take a look at quantum physics, you take a look at string theory, you take all of these particular factors and you extend them, and you see how they now form a vesica Pisces, and that all of these forms are now overlapping. So, and you just start to see how everything is really a complement to everything else. And that's the nature to all relationship, is when you're together in cooperation and complement, everything more becomes revealed. So again, yes, thought itself does create reality, but it's more so in the idea of your own personalized perspective when you're attempting to understand what you're attempting to become in this moment. But when you're really playing with the collective consciousness, there is an application process.
Yeah, and Brad, if we take this from, if you will, the macrocosmic look, which could easily be used as another expression of this, could be the global look at society. Tough word to use, because which society, which culture, which country, and bring it down to who we are. 5 people having a conversation, and then bring it down to how each of us interact with each person that we meet every day, or with 2 or 3 people that we meet during the course of any given moment. I can tell you categorically, because I'm dealing a lot with the public these days, how I manage any situation, whether it's a situation where an experience is neutral, or it starts off and somebody's a little pissed off, or they're happy and they're returning. I can tell you almost categorically that the outcome of any of one of those situations will be determined based on how I act emotionally with each one of those people, or each one of those people, plural. And the use of emotion is the use of energy. And if I'm coming from at least a neutral place, or a place of loving and caring, I can guarantee you that whatever the situation is, it's going to come out in a better way than if I had been purely analytical. I said, yes, I understand. Okay, right, and just been analytical. And I want to make a bridge over to KP on this one, the bridge to Hawaii. You traveled throughout this whole country last year, and you can probably shed more light on this kind of energy exchange with all the different people that you met across the mainland as you went from city to town to state. Energy exchange, people caring about each other simply because they wanted to extend their hearts to help you and or meet you. Any thoughts just in relationship to this whole process of bringing it down to one-to-one energy exchange?
Well, first of all, I've really been enjoying the listening to what's been discussed here. And the thing that really keeps popping out for me, and the reason I went on this journey, which started about 1 year ago, for 6 months, it was really because I'm here for the planet. At some point I realized, yes, I know I'm a galactic being, and I've seen ships move, I've seen stars move in the sky, and all this and all that. And there came a point where it's like, okay, well, great. Now why am I here? And it was like, it took a little, it took a short time to realize that, basically I'm here for the planet. I'm here to play my role, whatever that role happens to be. And it seems to be constantly, constantly flowing, morphing, changing, thising, thating, going
Evolving.
from one part, evolving, constantly evolving. But for myself, I know that journey really, there was a lot of connecting that was going on. But my primary communications, although they weren't from people would send out a message and I would sort of pick up on it, and it kind of meant that the planet was calling me there. The planet was calling me here, and there was a certain pattern. And in the end, I realized that, for myself at least, from my own perspective, the planet was saying, you go here and you go there, and don't just in the moment. That's one of the most valuable things that I've been reminded of again today. Just in the moment. Live in this moment. And as it turns out, the pattern that showed up on the continent of North America, Turtle Island, it was a grand infinity going east to west, followed by a smaller infinity going north to south. And it was just, to me, that was like, well, that's great. That's all I need to know. And whatever that part played over those 6 months is kind of not my concern. It's like, well, I felt I did what needed to be done. But it's that constant communication and that constant partnership with the entire planet, whether it involves energies or physical things on the planet or individuals or, it's just, it is. I truly, truly feel that, I think one key point was that I realized that I'm not here. I don't really feel I'm here to all of a sudden leave and say, well, I'm going to go live on some planet in the Pleiades or Andromeda. This is my mission right here, today, this moment. So that's kind of what that whole journey really helped me to understand. And I totally align with what everyone's saying here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great. It's really great, too, as well, KP, because what I love is the perspective that we have together in this panel. We just have such wonderful points of view, between John Vello and between Tolek and Joe and myself and you. I just think it's a great compliment in regards to a lot of the discussions that we have gone through so far. And I think this is just the beauty of the synchronicity of how we're all able just to express ourselves and talking about different patterns about the same thing. Again, that's kind of going into paradox. So you got to respect that.
Interesting that, KP, interesting that you observed that there's and I'm going to direct this to Drunvalo, a greater capacity, these are my words, a greater capacity of energetic flow and or information flow horizontally, west to east, as compared to north to south. And Drunvalo, what we talked about is those horizontal bands is the Birkeland current, if I'm saying it right.
Birkeland currents is right. Go ahead.
And that there is, as KP identified, maybe intuitively, that he was feeling and observing, there's a greater capacity of energetic flow from west to east than there is north to south. I think that's an interesting, I don't know what it means, but I think it's an interesting observation that he could pick up on that.
It corresponds very closely to the Hartmann lines, which run, they actually run west to east, but they run south to north. And they're all over the whole world. They're about 2 to 4 inches, 6 inches wide, and about 500 feet high and low, like a sheet into the earth. It's a very similar thing. I just brought that in here. There is something that I think that Stanford just learned relative to this exchange of energy that we were talking about and everything that's pretty amazing. And Stanford, through heart math, discovered not too long ago that the heart, when it beats, produces a massive electrical pulse that produces a toroidal field that pulses out from the heart and goes out to be between about 8 and 10 feet in diameter around the body. This field, first of all, is 5,000 times stronger than anything that comes out of the human body, including anything coming out of the brain. So it's the most powerful field that science has ever been able to record. But what Stanford has just been able to figure out recently is really amazing. They found now, and they have scientifically documented what I'm about to say. When 2 or more people come together and they're within physical, when their magnetic fields begin to either touch or overlap, they link together and they become one. And so, or even if you're in a huge audience like KP was talking about, all those fields link together and it becomes one being. It's really incredible what this is happening. This happens automatically, even if you don't even know it's occurring. And now what they've just discovered is the geomagnetic field of the Earth, which is going through a reversal, which is another whole subject on all of this. But the geomagnetic field of the Earth, the individual human field automatically connects to the geomagnetic field of the Earth. And so every single person on Earth literally is linked to every single person on Earth through the geomagnetic field right now. We just aren't aware of it. And this is another area of becoming one that is a beautiful avenue that we can begin to explore through meditation, etc., and those things. Anyway.
Wow. I'll share a brief story which directly touches on this topic. 8, 10, 12 years ago, a friend of mine at that time asked me if I would go join him for some kind of speaking engagement at the church that he went to on the northwest side of Tucson. He said there was going to be some very enlightened speaker, and I had no plans on this particular Wednesday night, so I said, yeah, sure, I'll join you. Well, the point of the story is this. I got there, and it happened to be a very Christian environment, and they were collectively, there were probably, I'm going to say, somewhere between 450 to 500 people in this large semicircle building. And there was a moment in time after about 20 minutes of some speaking, and the gentleman who was doing the speaking said, let's sing the song together. What I can tell you that I observed was absolutely astounding. The collective group of people knew this song, and I don't remember the song, but they knew the song, and as the song had its own sine wave and its own rhythm, it started to climb, and it got into, for lack of better words, the higher octaves. And I'm getting chills as I tell the story. There was a moment when this song, from an octave perspective, peaked, and the people collectively were holding this one note. It was almost like I could feel myself vibrating off of the floor due to the collective high energy level at that moment in that building. It was astounding. And I closed my eyes and I could feel the high level of energy being produced from the tone and the interconnectedness of the energy of the 450 to 500 people in the room at that time. Absolutely amazing. Now, I'm not a scientist, so I can't quantify it, but I thought I threw it out there given the current discussion we're having.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to comment, feel free.
We're still hearing the music.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm still
maybe.
vibrating within that. It's funny because when you go to football games, it's the same thing. Like I went to a Steelers football game in the stadium. You hear people make that comment where you could feel the energy, and so now, as I said earlier, we're merging this experience that we're all having with the scientific evidence that we can actually prove what we're actually experiencing. And so, to me, it's interesting to hear both sides of the same coin. And Brad, I'm sure you have something to comment on this as far as energetically. Like I've said in the past, like people that come together, and it used to be where people would think it was the particular denomination of the church or the church itself that creates the so-said miracle, but it's actually the people coming together for the same prayer at the same time. And energetically now, that really makes a lot of sense. When a lot of people come together to pray for one thing, it goes out, and then I think it's magnified. And I've said this for a long time, but now there's something to quantify that actual thought.
There's a real science behind it. It's amazing.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
there's a big difference, though, if you do it consciously. We just did this a few days ago with about 100 people. And if one person, you got to first teach that person how to get in there to become aware of their magnetic field. But when you do, and they start breathing with it, and they get connected to it, you can feel it. It's really easy. And then when you get this going, and you take the senses that are connected to your body, your sight, your hearing, all your senses, and you psychically move them out to the surface of the toroidal field, and you begin to sense from there. When you get a room full of people doing that, and they begin to connect together, they know everything that everybody's feeling and thinking, and it's just an amazing thing. We've also found from other things that when you get two people to connect in that kind of way, that if they stay for very long, the magnetic fields lock, and you can't push your body away. I've sat there with my wife, and I'm pushing as hard as I can against her, and she's pushing as hard as she can against me, and we can't move a half inch. The fields,
Wow.
just like if you take a big, strong magnet and put it on a refrigerator, you can barely pull it off. Just imagine two huge magnetic fields locking, becoming one. Until those fields decide they want to unlock, you're not going to move. And so this is a very real thing, and it's somehow I'm sure that we will use this to bring us all together someday, or at least I don't know why we wouldn't.
Well, what an interesting concept, because you could also apply that to the simple concept of two people being initially in love with each other, and as that love matures over time, if in fact there is this energetic bond like you're talking about, two people who have fallen in love and stay in love, part of it might be explained because of this energetic bond. As long as they keep putting forth that vibration of love energy, you get back what you put out. So you have, in fact, what might be the infinity symbol. It's that infinite loop. It feeds on itself.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brad. That happened to my wife and I. We've been married 20 years, and it happened to us right after we were first married. And every time we get kind of into a difficult time, which everybody gets into, the first thing we remember is when we were locked into that field and we couldn't move. It did something with our hearts. I couldn't. I couldn't leave her now if I wanted to. I don't think.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing of what we are able to do with our bodies and looking at the magnetic field in a way. This is how people also experience, certain points of sleep paralysis as well too, and it really has to do with the magnetic field as well too. If I was to explain it in a more esoteric term, it's basically that the physical body and the astral body itself are going through a temporal phase of flux, and that the magnetic and are basically just going into a temporary discord in that sense, a temporary mismatch of sync, and that eventually at some point that magnetic field, that astral body, slams back, and now that person has motor functions back into their body. I just talked to so many people who have had these particular states, like something like sleep paralysis. I have heard about the magnetic field locking as well too. Beautiful experience from what I've heard as well. It really is just amazing when we start doing a lot of these consciousness experiences, especially in mass meditation as well too, for people, what they're able to achieve. There's a lot of people that just float outside of their body and just can see the roof of the place that they're in, go around the entire city and just, oh my goodness, I just went around the block and it only took like 5 seconds, right? And here I am slamming back into my body again.
I've done that.
It really is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's absolutely amazing to have these things. And this is all part of a catalyst effect, I feel, that, everything that we attract in our reality is part of us becoming a catalyst for that person. So it's kind of going back to Tolek's example as well, too, that if we're going to talk to a person and they're, feeling down in the dumps and all that, and you bring love into the situation, well, then you're functioning as a catalyst to that reflection of that person that's attracting a kind of like a feeling of that they may say as a reassurance to themselves. And so you're acting as the prop in regards to a beautiful, loving reflection of catalyst. And that's really what I feel it is that every person around you just represents a catalyst representation in regards to certain aspects of yourself. There's also what's known as a background people as well, too. We basically have Mother Earth actually creating holograms of people. Like, for example, I could be, right here in Vancouver, and then there could be another person that actually may see a kind of peripheral version of myself walking around in Ireland. And I just said, well, I'm here. But basically what happens is that the Earth itself creates these kind of mirage projections of the people on the planet, and you're actually able to see that background people are actually able to, or other people that are in that way just projecting other facets of their consciousness in other areas of the planet that you may see, walking along busy streets and actually seeing another person that may exist in another country that's actually, peripherally walking behind you in the street. It's really amazing about what is really going on here on planet Earth, relating to holograms, relating to projections, and relating to ourselves as representations of catalyst.
Hey, KP, any particular, because it seems that when Brad was speaking about this topic, what came to me intuitively was sort of a mystical explanation of things that are happening in our lives to each one of us. Can you share with us anything that you found to be especially or particularly mystical that's happened with you around the Hawaiian Islands as you've journeyed there?
Mystical. Well, mystical. What do you mean exactly by mystical? Are you looking at? I can speak about guidance. I can speak about some things that First of all, okay, I've seen lights move here, and that was a great experience at the moment. Because I think I realized my galacticity. I said, all of a sudden I'm sitting at Kilauea, I'm sleeping overnight at Kilauea. This is about 3 or 4 years ago, and I see these. It was very clear to me one star was calling. And in any event, at that point, I started seeing various lights moving. I have not seen a physically looking standard type unidentified flying object kind of craft. I haven't seen one coming out of the ocean. I haven't seen a physical thing like that. However, go ahead.
I wasn't talking particularly about what people might call paranormal things, which I think describing. The question I was trying to form was, Hawaii, for many people, is perceived as a very special place. And it may in fact be a very special place. With you living there, as you've traveled the island and met people and held certain ceremonies that you have conducted by yourself and others, are there any particular events that have happened where you come away from those events going, wow, that kind of mystical, where something that you never even expected that might happen did happen, and you can sort of see the interconnectedness of all during that experience or experiences. Is that a better question?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a great question. A lot of the things that, when I feel that I've been on the islands to express, or to express, and also to participate. And I don't know if I can pick out any one particular one, but I know that there was one series of events that I felt called to go on, and that was to go around the island to different places and deposit these essences, water essences that had been given to me. And it's at one point, I must say, and it wasn't a physical vision. It was an inner vision. I got to a point where I saw the person who's considered the original king of the Hawaiian Islands, Kamehameha the First, and I saw him coming out of the water, and he was just we had almost like he was being freed from this old idea of him holding a spear, having the helmet on, and it was something about the freeing of all the islands, but in particular for him, that he was so happy to be released from this role that he felt he had to play for the last 200-300 years. And it's kind of sometimes I'll see it right then. That was the only one that I really saw right then. I saw him coming up, and instead of holding a spear in his whatever hand he was holding it in, he was now holding a shepherd's crook, and he was now had ascended in a way to becoming a shepherd rather than a warrior of the type that most people would think of as a warrior. So.
KP, you still there?
I think he dropped.
Yeah, we lost him.
Okay.
But I mean, I've been to Hawaii not too long ago, actually, just last winter, and I went to Maui, and it is one of the most beautiful places on the planet I think I've ever been to. I enjoyed everything that was there, and you want to just talk about a deep spiritual connection. It definitely is Hawaii. So, yeah, I mean, it's great that he's talking about Hawaii and all that. It's amazing, to say the least. There's so much energy there. There's so much beauty there. You're in another Eden, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are different. I would imagine that just like this country, by some people, is expressed in ley lines, where there are certain frequencies that are at a higher pitch, or if you will, the veil between this vibratory experience of this organic planet, the veil there is much thinner between here and the next density, such as where Drunvalo is in Sedona. Well, likewise, I would imagine that KP, and feel free to comment on this, Kauila, that there got to be certain energy points in Hawaii where you can feel the higher vibration of Mother Earth at certain points in Hawaii.
Well, there's no doubt about that. The thing about it is that, for example, not too long ago, I had felt drawn to go up. You go up to Mauna Kea. Okay, Mauna Kea is one point that's kind of considered a sacred point, a portal of energy of something or other going on up there. And every time I've climbed up to you drive your car up, it's a real steep drive, and then you get to the telescopes and you park. Now, most people just look out and it's a beautiful view from up there, but you can still climb up another, 300 feet to the very top of Mauna Kea. And every time I've done that, it's almost like I felt something big opening up. And I'm not saying it was because of just me being there, or if it was, but it was, maybe everyone wouldn't experience that. But because I never go up, for one thing, I always only go up there to the top of Mauna Kea or Mauna Loa, only if I feel drawn to go up there. And I guess in that sense, you can look at it saying, well, I'm connecting with something that the planet is asking for, or that something is asking for. And when that happens, it's like, wow, you do your thing, I do the thing, whatever the thing is, and be there. And then I usually will feel it, especially on Mauna Kea, you feel it right away. The only drawback to some of these things is saying, well, I got to go up to Mauna Kea and have a spiritual experience. For me, that's not the way it works. If I'm going up with a tourist intention or a tourist idea, I'm just going to be a tourist, blah, 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 blah. The blah, blah, blahs don't cut it. But if I feel drawn there, that's when it, and the one trip, the last couple months that I took, and when I finally did go up to Mauna Loa, to the top of Mauna Loa, there's a drive. You can actually drive up to where the observatory is. It was, I'd have to call that a volcanic spiritual experience the whole way.
Wow.
So I will add one more thing. Sometimes too, when I feel I'm drawn to go on a certain mission, and maybe you others, everyone else has felt the same way. I don't particularly necessarily get all of the energetics of it while I'm doing it, or while I'm right there. Sometimes I feel stuff, but then once it's finished and I get back to wherever, the car or home, all of a sudden it just hits me how much was accomplished, and the breadth and depth of what was accomplished. And it never feels like it's just myself. It feels like it's a much grander experience than that. So, but I also felt that on the mainland too. So it's not just Hawaii, but there's a lot of, it seems like Hawaii is, at this moment, one of the very important points on the planet that is allowing this grand transformation or transmutation or ascension to go. So that's where I'm at with that.
John Vulo, do you? This is Tulloch.
Yeah,
I live here in the American Southwest as you do, and
yeah,
there's some Red Rock country really close to me, and I consider to be really blessed to live in what I would call sacred land. There is an energy to this land and a beauty to this land that is almost hard to put into words. Not everybody has the ability or the capacity, and we all can make choices, but not everybody's got the ability to live in the country that you and I live in. I'm talking about the countryside, the kind of place we live in.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary here.
It is. It's extraordinary. Any thoughts, any of your own personal thoughts on what you feel when you take walks out in nature, and how that influences your life or your work, or how the energy of it influences your work?
Yeah, sure. I've been living here for 20 years, and though I left twice. I left, stayed in Arizona, but I went to Cave Creek for a while, and then to a place called Payson. I couldn't live there very long because the energy I just felt like I went from Technicolor to black and white. And I couldn't, and I came back, and now I've decided, forget it. I'm just going to stay here the rest of my life. But this place is special in a lot of ways, and I'm sure there are other places. A lot of people that come here compares this to Jerusalem in terms of the sky. The sky here is open in a way that it isn't. You don't see it very often like this.
And it's blue. But, it's incredibly blue.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing, really. And it's becoming a very special spiritual center in the world. It slowly began to happen, but now it's pretty strong. even Bashar, Daryl Danka and Bashar, I guess you guys know that. When he first moved here, came here from several hundred years in the future, he came here and he parked his little dimensional ship over the top of Jerusalem. And that was a long time ago, and it's been sitting there for a long, long time until just about, I think it was 2 years ago, that he decided to move his ship from Jerusalem to Sedona. It's now parked over the top of here because he also perceives this as the spiritual sin of the world right now. So it's, and then, I don't know, I can go on for days on this stuff. I just, when KP was talking about mystical things, I suddenly thought of something that just happened recently, and this is kind of important. You guys might find this pretty powerful. It was an event that took place not in Arizona, but a state that touches it, Colorado. And in Aspen, Colorado, in August of 2013, an event happened there that has now been recorded, but it is off the scale of anything that we normally think that human beings are capable of. But on the August 28th, and all of this is being fed to me from a major world scientist. He's very famous. I don't want to say who he is because everybody knows, and I haven't asked him permission to tell the story, so I'm not going to give his name. But he lives there, and he had it started to rain, and he has very, very sophisticated Geiger counters in his house that are attached to computers that are able to tell exactly what ions they are and where they're coming from and all kinds of things. And suddenly the Geiger counters just went off and went into the red and started screaming in the late at night. And he picked it up. He went out. He took it outside, and it was worse outside. And the levels were so high that if they stayed there, if that was really true, everybody would have to leave. And it continued on through the night. He went everywhere. There were two other scientists there that had similar equipment and confirmed that this rain that was coming down was radioactive, and it was incredibly radioactive. And by the isotopes of what was coming in, they were able to determine this was coming from Fukushima. And so they got nervous, as you can say. In fact, all these rich people up there on their jet planes were all leaving and getting the hell out of there if they could, because they didn't, the word spread everywhere. And it rained all through the night on the 28th, and on the 29th it continued to rain. But on the 29th, the U.S. government came in with all kinds of people to find out what was actually happening, and it did not look good. And on the 30th, on the morning of the 30th, the rain began to stop. And when it stopped, that's when the government measured how far the radiation went into the soil, and it was between 7 and 9 inches into the soil. Okay, well, if you've got, now you have a city, Aspen, and probably several hundred miles around it, where the soil was completely radioactive. And when it gets that way, we have no known way on Earth to fix that other than removing about a foot of soil or more from the whole thing and all the trees and rocks and everything on top and doing something with it. And so there's no real answer to this. And the government went in, from what we found out later, they went back to Washington, and they checked with their ET department, put it that way. Our government is now in contact with 56 different ET cultures, though there's over 300,000 of them here. And these cultures said, "We're not doing this, you're doing it. Humans are doing this." And so they went back, and we actually have the documentation to prove this, because you could actually, it's all hard copy from the computers, and you can see this. But all the radiation, what I was talking, I should have said this first. All the radiation levels began to drop on the morning of the 30th, and they just kept going down and down and down and down and down and down till they were normal. And then they just kept going down till they were one of the lowest recorded on Earth. And so what we now believe is that somebody that lived there, some people, human beings, were able to transmute this radiation back. And to me, if this is really true, this is fantastic. We really are getting high enough in consciousness to be able to protect ourselves against these kinds of things. And this is awesome. It really is, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of similar experiences with that as well too. Basically, like I've had just like the basic chemtrails going across the sky as well too, because a lot of people I've talked to, especially in the southern United States, I believe they're quite bad. I've actually just received meditative insight in regards to how one can actually dissolve that. And that's basically just connecting more so with the spirit of the sky, opening up your heart very strongly. And it's basically like you're symbiotically connected between yourself and the sky, and that you're actually utilizing the water in the sky to actually wash away the chemtrails. And I actually did this just outside from a couple of chemtrails that were in not too long ago. And just being able to do this technique and just feel your connection, what it is to be the sky. And it's almost like you have like a water eraser, and you're just saturating all of these chemtrails with all of this water. And kind of like nice geometry that follows with it as well too, like triangles. And just starting to see this, over a span of several minutes, just starting to see this really kind of dissolve away, not into the point to where it expands, but actually seeing the part to where it's still quite thinned out. And you're now starting to see this dissolve away as well too. And that's just giving us a reminder of the power of our ability to go into intention and meditation, and seeing all of these particular forms just do amazing things. Radiation, absolutely, do the same thing.
Yeah,
it is the same thing, but it isn't really. I mean, the chemtrails are pretty easy. Here in Sedona, we got lots of people that can do that. But removing radiation out of soil, I don't think that's ever been documented ever on Earth anywhere before. That it would be, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years before anybody would ever be able to move back in there again. And so this, I get it is the exact same internal process to do that. It isn't any different than anything else that you would do through creation process, but the fact that we actually were able to save a huge area of the United States that would have been dead, and do that immediately was I just want to pat the humanity on the back. I mean, we are getting to a level where this is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely different. In a way, it is very different. In a way, it's also very similar to what you can also do, too, because the intention, no matter what the catalyst is always fixable in any particular form of consciousness, despite in regards to its differentiation of alignment.
So, Drinvalo, can I poke in here for a second?
Sure, go.
KP here. I just wanted to find out if so when that was discovered and they talked to the ET advisors, and they said that it's you, did they consciously come back and inform people in Aspen, or is this something that...
No, they never told anybody. Once it was cleared up, they walked away and never said a word anywhere.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's the way it is.
But, of course, we've been in contact a couple times with Masaru Emoto, and he's come over here a couple of times to do healings of the water, and particularly, regarding the Pacific. And so, I mean, I know his work is, of course, with consciousness and healing is certainly very well documented. But I agree. It's the first time I've ever heard about the soil, the radioactivity of soil being dissolved.
This is one that's pretty good. I have to admit, Dr. Emoto he's actually a friend. I've spent time with him in Tokyo in his labs and everything, and his work has really gone around the world. But I think I'd like to put a plug in for Gaiam Television, because they have a new movie coming out called Secret of Water, and that is one of the best movies on water, hands down, over anything I've ever seen in my life. It's not free yet. I just got a draft of it, which we were allowed to show recently, but it will be out soon. And when that, I really recommend you see this movie. It's just incredible what they have come together with on water. It's way above anything that we've probably ever even heard of.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just want to plug in here too, or jump in here. I mean, and with everything we're talking about with water, with transmuting some of these things, and humanity's highest potential, I think what we're talking about is just that. It's what does humanity, as an individual, and more so collectively, what are we able to do when we turn on? And this goes back to the DNA, the brain function, all that stuff. And so what does that look like? And so with me personally as a energy healer, as a person that I feel that has a connection to Mother Earth and all of humanity, that wherever I go now, I have a conscious thought of wherever I go, whether I'm in a plane, a train, an automobile, whatever, I have the conscious intent of sending out this love vibration and whatever's in the greatest good for everybody
Yes.
at that particular time. And so I just recently went to the state of Washington and was in the Pacific Ocean. I physically took my shoes off and stuck my feet in the water with a conscious intent and visualized that stream of energy as an individual and collectively, almost as a white blood cell. The way I look at the physical body, I feel like humanity is like little white blood cells on the planet. And so we have that potential to help heal the planet as though the white blood cells can heal our physical body. And even though they're microscopic, look what they can do. And it's the same with humanity as a potential. And so no matter where I go, that's what I do nowadays. And of course, I don't have the proof to back it up and say, yep, look what I did. But it doesn't matter to me. I had the conscious intent, and it was coming from my heart. It was the love for the love of this planet and humanity. It was why I do this. And so moving into the topic of Independence Day, how does that, this is going to be aired on Independence Day weekend. And so for humanity, Dronvalo, how do you feel that this information that you're bringing forth tonight, and we're all discussing tonight as though our highest potential, do you feel that, with the summer solstice energy that we're bringing in today, and I don't think it was an accident that we came together on this particular moment of now, on these high energies. I mean, it wasn't my intent to be on this particular day. I just realized it the other day. I'm like, wow, we scheduled it on the summer solstice. These are going to be some huge energies. We're going to be pulling in so much information. It's going to flow so nicely. And that was my awareness. And so what I'd like to say is, this is going to air on the 4th of July weekend. And so as we're discussing this, how could you relate what we're talking about to our independence on a higher level?
Well, from Melchizedek consciousness, I know what's going to happen. We already know. I mean, we make it. We're fine. We're going to get through all of this. But right before we're going to come into this point where first few people begin to get it and then everybody does. But right before we leave here, before we move into the fourth dimension for a short time and go on, this phenomena is going to take place. And it is definitely our independence. It's this amazing thing that is going to happen. I don't know if anybody's ever talked about this before, but we all come into a place where we know who we are, and we remember everything, and the whole world drops all this garbage into and war and everything else, and we become one living being on the surface of the earth. But before we leave, before we actually go into the higher levels and begin to move up into different ways of perceiving the one universe, we focus on the earth, and with all the garbage that has happened to this planet and all the damage that has been done, we use our ability to recreate the earth back to the way it was long time ago. And so we clean the oceans, and we clean the air, and we clean the soil, and we bring life back into health. We do this for two reasons. One, because we need to know we have to do it for karmic reasons. We can't just destroy a planet and then take off and go somewhere else and think that that's okay. It's not okay. And so we clean up this whole planet and bring it back. But in so doing, we gain the actual information and understanding that we need to leave the planet en masse and to go on to the other levels. And so this is very near. I know people put it way out, but I don't think we're going to get through the year 2015 before this happens. That's the Mayan prediction. Put it that way. All the Mayan councils in Guatemala and the Itza Mayans and all of them, they all believe that this thing is going to happen very, very soon. And so we're still in the end of time window from the Mayan way of seeing. And so our independence, maybe this is the 4th of July independence for the United States, but we're coming into the independence of the globe itself, the whole thing, and we will do this. I mean, I know this is going to happen because I can see the future. The future, all time, is spherical, and you can see anything you want.
Awesome, Brad.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm Canadian, so...
You can jump in anyway.
Our Canada Day is July 1st, actually. But no, that's great. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We are going places as a civilization. I mean, I'm just kind of looking back in retrospect to my own life and, just remembering what was available, as a 5-year-old kid and now seeing what's available here at 35 years old, through that 30-year span. We've done a lot of stuff. We have really accomplished a lot of amazing things. And yeah, I mean, absolutely. We are really looking at a time to where everything that we thought we knew is just going to evolve. Everything is just going to advance. I'm just seeing this enormous explosion. I talk to so many people just all across the world and seeing how well they're expanding and how well they're exploring themselves and getting to know themselves. Yeah, we are definitely moving into very, very slowly but surely, and it won't be too long, into a mature-based civilization, and that really does require, being unified consciousness, taking care of yourself, helping others, and taking care of your planet. And as you start to do that, that represents a certain graduation degree where you're able to basically become a galactic-bound civilization once there is a particular demonstration of maturity that comes together. And once that happens, we have a lot of work to do. We're basically going to be working along the galaxy with many other different civilizations, thousands upon thousands of them actually going to different planets, sharing them our story, being able to learn more about ourselves as we talk to a lot of these other different beings, beings that may be somewhat physical to us, some that may be very ethereal. And we are just going to be recapturing our moments back together with family. It's a very, very positive future. Like I said, I've just seen through the Akashic Records well up to the year 3000. We share the Earth with many different beings. It's kind of like a Star Trek future, really. You're just seeing Earth being associated with many other different races. You have hybrid races. You have other ET beings, human extraterrestrials, that are walking your planet, and they gladly admit that they're from another planet. And there's no big deal about that. Hey, it's this guy's from Andromeda. Hey, that's fantastic. How's it going, man? It's going great. And that's really our future. That's where I see us going. Right now we're in the benchmark time, and the benchmark time is, being here on this planet and being able to transform all of these old systems that really represent, a point of corruption. And now we're starting to move past that. We're transcending these ideas and these boundaries. And this is why it's so exciting right now for so many people to come here on this planet and incarnate as anything, because this is like the grandest show in the universe right now, is that we have the galactic stage. And if we knew how many beings are actually watching us from beyond our world and in other dimensions, it would be absolutely spellbinding just to understand that. So really right now we're going through a very strong graduation process. It will be quite quick, and definitely within the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, we're going to see the transformations of a really, really beautiful, loving, and amazing Earth to be a part of.
Awesome. Tolik?
Oh, boy. How do I follow those?
Took the words out of your mouth.
Wow. I want to touch on 2 topics, and I'll try to do it in a concise manner. Within the past, I want to say, year and a half, I remember seeing an article written by, and this I'm going to jump a little bit into Drunvurlo's world and his perspective. But it's worth noting, for this reason, a lot of people who go about their daily lives want to see verifiable proof. They want facts. They want proof of change. And it's in the science journals. And Drunvalo, you may or may not have read this, but essentially what this article said was that scientists are not only able to measure the rays and frequency of this planet, but they're also able to measure the rays or rise of frequency, of luminosity, of magnetics, of all of the planets in this solar system. There is a discernible, and it's over, I guess they measured over the course of 10 or 12 years, there is a discernible movement up in all of these categories of evolvement as this solar system moves into this area of space of higher frequency, higher vibration, higher magnetics. There is, to use everybody else's words, there are discernible ways that scientists have actually been able to measure what is going on. And I want to follow that thought with one of the things that I learned that was distinctly unique about the moment, sorry that I'm going to say this, the moment of time of the date of December 12, 2012, is that the energy core of this planet was transformed as this planet goes through her birthing process into becoming a higher dimensional world. What used to be a plasma core of this planet is now a higher vibrational energy source that Andromeda Council scientists call SAR. And they call it SAR because it's not quite a star and no longer a 3D organic planet. And from what they've told me, it is distinctly unique that a 3D organic world is evolving in this nature. They've never seen it happen before in their records.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what all of this means. I mean, I know where it's leading to, and where it's leading to is this planet and many of its people will become, in fact, fourth density and or dimension. And we don't need to have fine matter discussing points about the definition of those words, but as we become 4D and 5D, this planet is uniquely following that path of upward vibrational evolution. And it's unique. It is a unique event, which apparently is being engineered by not only Mother Earth, but significantly higher level beings that control energy processes at a great magnitude. It appears to be an amazing process, and just from a personal perspective, I think this is an amazing time to be here. You know, that we can have 5 people like us having this conversation from all of these different perspectives, and we all bring value to this conversation. But it's amazing to have this conversation. It's amazing to live on this planet at this time. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I'm blessed to be here and hear everybody's perspective in terms of what they learn, what they hear, what they see. And at least from a personal perspective, as long as I feel that I have the ability to help and provide something of positive value to people, then I've kind of paid my way on the planet, you know.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Just as a footnote too, I also got information on the core of the Earth as well too, and I can definitely confirm that. It really is almost as if you were to go inside our planet. It would almost be kind of like a miniature sun in that way. So that's very much on par with our Everseed as well too. So yeah, very good, excellent.
Yes. Oh,
Awesome.
good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just have to hear from KP, and then well, KP, what do you see happening here over, like if you were to have a looking glass over the next year, and just even into the next weekend? And I know we were talking about staying in the present moment of now, but the excitement for people is just that. It's like these are so exciting times, as Tolek has said. And so how do you feel that this will catapult humanity into this independence? And since it's airing on Independence Day, I think it's important to just give a perspective on that and relate from a higher point of view what we're talking about tonight within the spiritual aspect within your perspective.
Well, my gosh, that's a big one. I'm looking at the transformation over if you want to look at the past year. One of the interesting things about the journey that I took was that, the day before I left Hawaii, Ed Snowden came out with a little announcement and something about certain things being released. And I just look at the transformation of the planet over this past year, and I feel that people are really looking more and more at the independence within. The prefix "in" really fits well, and I feel that more and more are looking at it as not this. We're just going to celebrate the United States of America. It's more that each and every day, more and more are coming to realize that independence within, and I just see enormous. I don't know how I can really describe that, but it's that these miracles will happen. People will call them miracles at first, but then they'll realize, hey, this is just who we are, and we are independent of. I feel that a major part in the last few years has been people stepping out of this duality paradigm. And even people who have been in the light worker community for years realizing that, well, wait, I'm still playing this duality thing. My information is better than yours, or your information is better than mine, all this kind of stuff. And I do see a strong unification of consciousness of the planet. And I don't usually look at stuff, I say, what's it going to be like? And what's exactly going to happen? But I do feel everyone is ascending in their own particular pathway, in their own way, including those higher beings. At one point I remember seeing Pele, who's traditionally the goddess of fire and transmutation, transformation, destruction. At one point I saw this being, or this concept, being raised to the sky, into the air, into the sky, and now that she was operating more in the atmosphere now, in the rain, and so whatever that means, I just see a lot of things, a lot of awareness. Really, that's such a great awareness coming through that I can't even, I wouldn't even try to measure it. But the fact that we're talking, the five of us here, and I feel like, I'm in this group of, my goodness, this is these, I'll call you high beings, knowing that we're all high beings. I'm really grateful to have been able to participate with this, and I really see there's going to be I can't put a measure on it, but it's going to be a grand expansion of consciousness in particular in the United States. I think it's really significant. It's being released on July 5th, for the United States. This is really, it started this past year, but really it's going to, 10, 100-fold increase just within the United States corporate area.
Awesome. Thank you. And so, we've been at this for over 2.5 hours, and thank you guys for hanging in there and staying on the line. It's been very interesting. We can keep going, or I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to say some final words, or we can keep going with it. I just want to break in just to see what everybody's feeling right now. And I'll start with Drunvaloo. Of course, we respect your time, and of course, Brad and Tolik and KP. So I'm going to start with Drunvaloo. Is there any final words, or do you want to continue with the discussion? Or I'm sure you may have other things.
Well, for just the people out there that are trying to understand and trying to live their lives and become part of all of this, just trust in yourself and believe in yourself and know you're connected to all life everywhere. And this is going to be easy. It's not going to be difficult or hard, and it's not going to be painful. It's going to be a beautiful thing. But believe in who you are and don't give up. And I love you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Brad?
Yeah, I mean, really, we're just going through an exceptional time right now. We're really looking at how closer we are bonding together with each other, but not so much as a civilization, but particularly as one being. And that everything that when you really understand everything in reality, you understand how everybody who you walk across every day really is just another part of you. It's just that soul spark, it's that soul seed that is just looking to be planted back in the soil with all of us so that we can actually sprout one particular plant, one beautiful form of vegetation. And that's really what it's all about. It's just really being able to connect with people, to understand more so what you are seeing through yourself, how you're able to transcend your own consciousness into a more broader understanding about how the whole universe works together with you. You're operating in one body as a host, and that it's just all part of an infinite number of cells contained in this beautiful universe. So just remember that it really is about living in the moment, be here now, follow the path of the heart. The heart is working together with you very, very strongly, and really just start to understand how everybody just gets along here on this planet, because we are one family. And the more that we can really move into that maturity to be in love with each other, so to speak, with what we do and who we are and what we understand together, that's the profound connection of love. So please remember, be in the moment, enjoy yourself, and love. That's the primary idea, the primary message.
Awesome, thank you. Tolik?
Drunvaloo, Brad, you guys are a tough act to follow. Man.
I know, he's always third.
Oh, jeez. I consider myself to be blessed in many ways. And one of them is that I made the choice, but yet still every day when I walk outside and I see the hills of this beautiful country of the American Southwest, I go to myself, I am so fortunate to live here and to feel the energy and the vibration of this beautiful landscape. I've traveled around the world, and yet there's still something distinctly unique about the American Southwest, the high desert, and the energy of the high desert of the American Southwest. Having said that, I'll merge into a theme I've talked about a few times, which conjoins with what Brad said toward the end, which is really get to know yourself, who you are, how you tick, what particular gifts and blessings that you bring to the world, and also wherever you live, because the vibration of nature, at least based on what I've learned from my own Andromeda Console contacts, is that the vibration of nature is the same vibration as the vibration of love. As much as each of you are able, get outside into your area of nature. Walk across a stream or a creek, stare at the sky, sit down, listen to the birds, sit by a pond or a lake and watch some ducks. Quietly sit and absorb, or stand, or whatever you're going to do, and absorb the energy of nature. And I will tell you that whoever you are, it will help to bring more calm and peace to your heart and to your soul. And I know that for me, it's absolutely helped me as I interact with people on a daily basis, because I'm kind of surrounded by the energy of nature, the energy of love. And I try to take the time to understand that not everybody has my life. They have their own unique experience and their own unique sets of desires and wishes and feelings. And if I can respect each person, or collectively people that I interact with, then I'm also simultaneously bringing the energy of love to that experience. So if I can make any recommendation, go out into nature, experience the energy and love of nature, and treat other people like you'd like to be treated, with kindness, with love and respect. And do that in the moment. Brad, I hand it over to you.
Awesome.
Oh, I've already gone. So.
Or rather, KP.
Yep,
Yeah.
KP.
KP.
Yeah, my name's Brad too, so I got names flying around. I'm really
Brad tonight. Yeah.
That's a wonderful name to have. Well, I just say and ended up with live in the moment, be in the moment, do in the moment, and follow your path in the moment. That's all from me.
Awesome.
Wise words.
Okay, guys. Well, this was an awesome show. I want to thank you guys all for coming on. I think we created something wonderful. It's going to go out on the weekend of Independence Day weekend. And so, hopefully we could come together in the future. I guess we can talk about that at a future time. But I got to thank my co-host Stephanie and for producing the show. And again, thank you, Junvalo, thank you, Tolek, thank you, Brad, and thank you, KP, again, for a wonderful, fulfilling, and enlightening show. And again, we're going to have to do this again. So also thanks to all the listeners out there. And until next week, we offer you love,
Light,
And laughter.
and laughter.
And laughter.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Good
Thank
night.
you guys. Love you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.